Like, that's the fucking problem. And that's what's going on. It's like, we got to realize we are flossing for the fucking poor.
Yeah, there you
we
go.
are fucking poor, bro. And you are poor. Yo, floss, what you the one that throwing the money?
Right.
You are flossing poor. You are poor. That's why you showing it. You're trying to show it to get more. Tell the people you're doing that for that. Tell them that's the same last week money. Tell them. You know what I'm saying? Like, all that shit because you're flossing to the poor. You're flossing on the poor. I got more money than you, nigga. That attitude gonna fuck us all the way up.
Real.
Because we literally are fucked up over nothing but that simple mathematics.
All right, Shalom. This is the brother Nahalia from the GMS Orlando camp. I want to start off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yasher Allah, and a sincere salutation to all you Akim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Akwath, who are believing this word in all truth and in sincerity. And you just saw a clip from an individual, for those who don't know, he used to be a rapper with Murphy Lee, all right? But that's neither here nor there. I mean, he was a rapper with Nelly. His name is Murphy Lee. All right, but that's neither here nor there. The point that I want to focus on is what he was saying. All right, and it kind of backs off of the lesson that I did yesterday on how this was all established through careful agendas, all right, behind closed doors. All right. But he spoke to the culture that we have now. All right. And he explained it very clearly that through the spirit, you know, Jake is the culture that we have is competition. All right. To make it plain and make it simple. It's not group economics like Jake loves to talk about. All right. But it's competition amongst each other. All right. When you think about the weekends and what most of our people do on the weekends, they go out, they wear their Sundays or their Saturdays best. All right. For the older generation, they go to church and they make sure they have the nice suit with the Stacey Adams. All right. All of this is really not to it's a culture of competition. Now you have the more violent ends of our culture, all right, dealing with gang life and everything else, drug life and everything in between. But every facet of our society, all right, and I'm talking about Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans primarily, who are the children of Israel, all right? That's what this lesson is focused on. You've been given a culture of competition, all right? Real quick, Salaki, I wanted to get this precept, but I wanted to highlight, you know, the topic of this lesson. All right, so I want to go to Isaiah, and I want to grab chapter 3, and I want to jump down to verse 5. And it reads, "And the people shall be oppressed, everyone by another, and everyone by his neighbor. The child shall behave himself proudly against the ancient, and the base against the honorable." All right, and this is what you have. You have a culture of competition, all right, all the way down the spectrum. All right, from auntie and uncle, all right, who in the church and they go and they wear the biggest hats or the nicest suits, all right, to show off. All right, down to Jake, who will call a member of his nation that's older. You know, they'll call them old heads, and most of the time it's derogatory. All right, all of these things go back to a culture that was manufactured. That's not our original heritage. It's something that was manufactured in captivity, and Jake still cleaves unto it to this day. You know, when you look at that clip from Murphy Lee, you know, he said something else. He mentioned the idea of guys who show off online to get more money, all right, by perpetuating a status that they don't yet have, you know, faking it till you make it, all right. They put on this perception that they already have something that they don't have to actually get it. All right, and this goes back to our people being placed in a lower state. All right, the Lord said that the rich would sit in a lower state. Now, first and foremost, that begins with the elect of the nation of Israel. All right. But as a nation of people, all right, we're on the bottom as a whole. All right. On average. All right. You have a few exceptions to the rule, but on average, Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans are in a lower state. And what Murphy Lee said, you know, was facts through the spirit, because again, it all goes back to the curses. You don't know. You notice these rappers. All right. They don't do this around other Edomites. They don't do this around the people that have bigger checks than them. They do it around poor people. They go to these clubs and they do these things around their own people. All right. And some of them say it's for motivational purposes, but really, all right, it's about competition. When you listen to the music, stunting on you niggas. All right. All of these kind of topics, all of these kind of phrases and rhetoric goes back to what he was saying, but it ultimately goes back to the curses. That's why the scriptures talk about eyes being evil toward their brother. And I'll get there real quick through the Spirit. All right, this is Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 54. And it reads, so that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eye shall be evil toward his brother, and toward the wife of his bosom, and toward the remnant of his children, which he shall leave. All right, now when you go into that verse, it also talks about the woman, which goes back into the whole gender war that you see online. All right, Negro, Latino, and Native American men against the women. All right, being a provider, beta male, alpha male, all of these things go back to the curses when you look at it from the source point. See, what the truth deals with is the source. Now, it requires faith to believe it, but once you are able to build on that foundation, you understand that all of the situations that we're going through as a nation of people really go back to a source. And that source is the warfare that the Lord has had against us. This is why we have a culture of competition as opposed to cooperation. Because the scriptures tell us to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. But what you have now is Jake, they may get some money. They may get a little level of status, so to speak. And they may be able to take a few of their friends along with them. Now they become a island unto themselves. All right. And then they're playing defense against their own people. And then at the same time, they're stunting, flossing, balling on their own people. When you hear these songs, all right, all of the songs, when you listen to Jake in this new era, is against their own people. It's not against the so-called white man. It's not against the other nations. It's pure competition against each other. For the sake of competition, all right, it doesn't benefit us as a nation of people. It only uplifts the ego of the individual who does it. And this is why, he mentioned in there, we won't get anywhere. All right, because again, this is not our rest. Most of our people have adopted this culture of competition. All right. And that goes in all levels of our society. And I'm talking about Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. All right. Your society, your culture. What is deemed acceptable by the majority of your people and what isn't? All of that is judged by a common so-called black and brown culture that is destructive at nature. And this is why the scriptures tell us to go and return to the old path. All right. Matter of fact, I'm going to grab this since I'm in Deuteronomy 28. I'm going to grab verse 56, and it reads, the tender and delicate woman among you, which would not adventure to set the sole of her foot upon the ground for delicateness and tenderness, her eyes shall be evil toward the husband of her bosom, and toward her son, and toward her daughter. All right, and that goes back to the baby mama, baby daddy drama. All right, and this Kevin Samuels, whatever case may be, gender war that you have, Shade Room, and all these different social media applications that really profit off of us being under the curses. They don't offer solutions. They just speak on us being under the curses. All right, because again, the solution is to return to Yahweh Shemel Shai, which only a remnant of our people would do. All right, but when you look at these things, especially guys like this who have been in the industries, all right, where Jake, young Jake aspired to get to, and you hear them talk, it all goes back to the curses. It all goes back to a source. That's why the scriptures mention the whole head being sick. Why? Because you've been infected with a virus. Now, the Lord has used Esau to carefully construct what you call culture today. But ultimately, 2/3 of our people have been infected with that sickness beyond rehabilitation. All right, you think about the 5 and 6 and 7-year-old kids that grow up listening to the music that they listen to today and being indoctrinated in this idea of running around toting weapons to protect themselves against themselves, doing harm to your own people, all right, calling them opposition, all right, and being glorified for it. This is not our original culture. This is not our original estate. But again, all right, it goes back to a source. All of these things have a source. They have a common issue. All right. And that common issue is that we forsook the Lord. And what happened? He forsook us. Fair enough. All right. Matter of fact, let's go to this. All right. This is Deuteronomy chapter 31. And I will jump down to verse 17. And it reads, "Then my anger shall be kindled against them in that day, and I will forsake them, and I will hide my face from them, and they shall be devoured, and many evils and troubles shall befall them, so that they will say in that day, are not these evils come upon us, because our power is not among us?" All right. And that's the mentality that the remnant of our people are going to have. They're going to quickly realize that there's a source to all of these issues that we're suffering as a people. It's not a random act of a random act of violence. All right. We didn't draw the short end of the stick. All right. We were disobedient and we are paying the cost. And you see that in every aspect of our life. All right. Even amongst our people and how they conduct themselves amongst each other. All right. Because, again, our heritage is not about competition and competing with each other. All right. To see who has the most money. That was never our original heritage. All right, that's something that we learned on this side of life. But it all goes back, again, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shai to us either acknowledging the Lord or not. And 2/3 of our people are not going to acknowledge Yahweh Shema Shai. And for that reason, they're going to be cut off. But this is a beautiful little clip because it shows you that these guys who, had the opportunity to go about the world and, deal with the record industry, they see the same thing. All right. They understand that this is a machine and 9 times out of 10. All right. You don't make it out alive. You don't make it out with the same so-called riches that you have when you go into these different arenas that Jake has gravitated toward. And that's why he said, tell them the truth. Tell them that the money that you flossing with is the money from last week. All right, that it's the same money that you did on the last 2 pictures. That the jewelry, all right, is more than likely not yours or it's being paid off. But the purpose of all of those things, again, is to compete with your own people, which is a sickness. All right. Matter of fact, I'll grab this as well, and then I'll probably close out. This is Isaiah chapter 1 and verse 3. And it reads, "The ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib. But Israel doth not know. My people doth not consider. Ah, sinful nation, a people laden with iniquity, a seed of evildoers, children that are corrupters. They have forsaken the Lord. They have provoked the Holy One of Israel unto anger. They are gone away backward. Why should ye be stricken any more? Ye will revolt more and more. The whole head is sick, and the whole heart faint." All right. Now, again, when you look at the average income of Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, all right, just a household, let's just say a Negro, Latino, or Native American household, it's around $30,000 or $40,000. That's the average. All right. Now, when you take into account, all right, the idea and the understanding that a lot of the people who perpetuate this idea of being rich, all right, through appearance, all right, are actually falling in that average, all right, amongst our people. Whereas you have the so-called white man whose average, I believe, is around between 50 and 75,000. All right. And they don't do that. They don't do the same things our people do. They don't go to a club and buy bottles. All right. Just to show off for 1 day out of the week. They don't put on the persona of being something they're not. We've been taught that, all right, to cover up for the fact that as a nation of people, we're poor. And the only people you can compete with is each other. Which goes back to this whole head being sick. All right. And I wanted to use this through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shai as an opportunity to highlight what the Lord told us. All right. Real quick. It's Jeremiah 6 and 16. All right. And it reads, "Thus saith the Lord, stand ye in the ways and see, and ask for the old paths, Where is the good way? And walk therein, and ye shall find rest for your souls. But they said, we will not walk therein. Because here it is, our actual culture, our way of life is being presented, and our people reject it for that which doth not profit them. All right, when you look into our laws, statutes, and commandments, all right, we had a welfare system where those who gathered grapes, who had a vineyard, all right, they left grapes for those who were poor. And someone who was hungry, who may be traveling, who may be, down on their luck, they could come to your vineyard and eat of the grapes that you've left behind. All right. You could actually work for one of your brethren, all right, as a servant, all right, and leave with substance. Marriages were built different. All right. Marriages involved financial business as well as love, quote unquote, like Jake likes to put it in this day and age. It was more of a business between families than it was just a union to make children. And these are just examples of how our economics worked with each other and not against each other. On this side, Jake is so caught up with the idea of this perception of being rich without actually being rich. All right, that they are in competition with each other, because that's really the only person you can compete with. The so-called white man who may make $100,000, he'll shop at Old Navy or the Gap, and you'd never know how much money he had. You see him at a Starbucks and walk right past him. But you got Jake, who will try to put on this perception of having something that they don't really have, all right, to impress people that look just like them, that are in the same financial condition as them. And this, again, is working backwards. That's why the scriptures say the whole head is sick and the whole heart faint. They have all gone away backwards. The scriptures tell us to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. And we can see why the Lord gave us this great laws, statutes, and commandments, and how it would benefit us as a nation of people. And it will in the kingdom. But you can also see the results of us being disobedient. And this was one of those examples that I wanted to use through the Spirit, because, again, this is a Jake that was in the rap industry at a point in time around Nelly, which was one of the bigger artists during their time, during his prime. All right. And he's able to acknowledge the same things that ultimately the scriptures told us. All right. Which is basically, this is not our rest, man. And even in this lower state, in the ancient world, we knew we were Israelites, so we knew that we had a certain way that we should conduct ourselves as a community. That's completely gone because, again, Jake has forsaken the old ways and the old paths. And even now that it's being presented, Jake pulls the shoulder to compete with each other, man. All right, so Lord willing, this was edifying. With that, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Rakah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who are the elders of Yashar Allah, and a sincere salutation to all you Akim, who are preaching this word and believing this word, and to the Akwath, who are believing this word in all truth and in sincerity. Shalom.